Good morning to one and all present here. I deem it a privilege to extend a very heartfelt welcome to you all. Reverend Father Director Gerald De Souza, SJ, Principal Dr. Pratima Prabhakar, Vice Principal Ms. Pauline Priya, the guest speaker for today's event, Ms. Eisha Krishn, all the distinguished faculty members, and my dear friends. On behalf of the entire Environmental Law and Climate Justice Committee, it is my privilege to extend a very heartfelt welcome to you all. Every year, on 5th of June, World Environment Day is observed to create awareness about various contemporary environmental issues. The Environmental Law and Climate Justice Committee of St. Joseph's College of Law is a community of like-minded individuals who feel very strongly about nature and strive to raise ecological consciousness amongst everyone. And towards this end, we have organized a webinar titled Challenges to and the Future of Environmental and Climate Litigation in India. Our aim is to gain a nuanced understanding of several aspects of environmental and climate litigation in India and unravel the scope and career opportunities available in this area. We would like to begin with readings from various holy scriptures, and for that, I would like to invite Mamta to read from the Bhagavad Gita, Shazia to read from the Holy Quran, and Father Anthony to read from the Bible. Over to you all.
Namaste. Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, verses 19 to 23. इति क्षेत्रं तथा ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं चोक्तं समासतः मद्भक्ता एतद्विज्ञाय मद्भावयोपपाद्यते प्रकृति पुरुषं चैव विज्ञानादि उभावपि विकाराश्च गुणाश्चैव विद्धि प्रकृतिसम्भवान् कार्यकारणकर्तव्ये हेतुः प्रकृतिरुच्यते पुरुष सुख दुःखानां भोक्तृत्वे हेतुरुच्यते पुरुष प्रकृतिस्थो हि भुङ्क्ते प्रकृतिजान् गुणान् कारणं गुणसङ्गोऽस्य सदा सदो निजन्मसु उपादृष्टानुमन्ता च भर्ता भोक्ता महेश्वरः परमात्मेति चापयुक्तो देहेऽस्मिन् पुरुषः परः.
The Holy Quran, Ayat 5 to 13 from Surah Rahman. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان الله البيان الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاقهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف الأرضيان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان.
From the Holy Bible. A reading from the book of Job, chapter 12, verses 7 to 10. But ask the animals, and they will teach you, or the birds of the air, and they will let you, or speak to the earth, and it will teach you, or let the fish of the sea inform you. Which of all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? In his hand is the life of every creature and the breath of all mankind. God commands man to be a steward of the environment. It is important to study the earth and the environment. The Bible says that knowledge of God and his works can be found in understanding plants and animals and the delicate web of life. O God, we thank you for this earth, our home, for the white sky and the blessed sun, for the salt sea and the running water, for the everlasting hills and the never-resting winds, for trees and the common grass underfoot. We thank you for our senses, by which we hear the songs of birds and see the splendor of the summer fields and taste of the autumn fruits and rejoice in the feel of the snow and smell the breath of the spring. Grant us a heart wide open to all this beauty and save our souls from being so blind that we pass unseeing when even the common thorn bush is aflame with your glory. O God, our Creator, keep us so mindful of its needs and those of all with whom we share, that open to your Spirit we may discern and practice all that makes for its well-being. Through Christ Jesus our Lord, who lives and reigns forever and ever.
Thank Thank you, Mamta, Shazia, and Father Anthony. Now, I would like to invite our director, Father Gerald De Souza, to address the gathering.
Good morning, and once again, a warm welcome to this webinar. We are gathered in this virtual forum to reflect on a very important topic, that is the challenges to and for the future of environmental and climate litigation in India. As we are aware, we are in the use and throw culture. It has made us people inward looking and self-centered. Pope Francis says in his letter, we need to stop treating our common home a dumping site of all our unwanted, unnecessary, and toxic trash. It is also to do with our mindset and attitude. It is not only the legal approach that we need to think about it, but also a strong notion that we have, that is of a public and private. As we are very much aware, we take utmost care of our private property, and we are very casual about the public property. This dichotomy exists in every human person, and it is very much there in our country and our society. Therefore, I would look at the Environment Day celebration perhaps should not be a token celebration. It is not once a year that we celebrate and we forget. It should be part of our life. Some of us also even think that Environment Day or celebration is something to make our campuses green, or perhaps make our surroundings green. Yeah, that is one part of looking at the environment, or perhaps the protection of environment. It is much more than that. It has to do with the sharing, caring, and a deep respect to the creation. Hence, I would appeal the mere laws will not bring about the desirable justice. We are speaking today, perhaps reflecting from the point of view of climate justice, and litigation is a part of it to bring that justice. Therefore, we know what justice that we need, and what are the different approaches. The law and justice, there is always a gap. And if you see from the point of view of today, the functioning of the judiciary, I do not think the sufficient emphasis is given to the environmental law, perhaps environmental issues. For the judiciary and for the public perception, there are many other issues which are more important. Therefore, I am afraid, or perhaps it's my concern, that that importance is not given. I believe the equal importance should be given to the environmental issues as well. Therefore, we need to look at this issue from various dimensions. First of all, as the law students, we need to look at from a legal dimension for sure. Together with that, we need to look at from our attitude, our mindset, and our perception of environment. Therefore, the use and throw culture should not be applied unconsciously and as a part of our culture. Hence, I desire this webinar becomes a clarion call for all of us to become eco-conscious, together with that justice-conscious people. We may always aim at sustainable growth with the eco-friendly approach, which makes our society just and equitable. Let that be our goal as we are thinking about and reflecting deeply about this climate justice. Lastly, I would like to acknowledge the effort of the organizing committee of our college for making this webinar a reality. I'm also grateful for the resource person of this webinar for agreeing to share the insights so that our students, especially, get the inspiration how they can be the catalyst to save environment, and that they may become the instruments to safeguard this environment through timely litigations. Once again, wishing all well the participants, the staff, and all others present in this webinar, that we may together restore our environment and move towards a renewed society that claims and gives space and dignity to everyone. Thank you. God bless us all.
Thank you, Father, for the enlightening words. Now, I would like to request Tejaswini ma'am to introduce the keynote speaker for today's event. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Prakriti. A warm welcome to everyone again. I first met Isha Mam during my internship at Enviro legal defense firm while I was completing my bachelor's. And I remember thinking, wow, she's so young and so accomplished already. I found her passion for the environment and grasp over the subject and practice of environmental law immensely inspiring. Isha Mam has completed her legal education from Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University and has been working with Enviro legal defense firm, India's first environmental law firm, for the past 9 years, ascending the ladder from an intern to an associate and now a partner. This is truly a testament to her commitment to the field. Being extremely passionate about wildlife-related issues, as a partner in the firm, she leads the wildlife forest and biodiversity practice areas. She's handled various cases pertaining to securing elephant habitats, relocation of tigers, challenging hydropower projects in Arunachal Pradesh, ecotourism in Coorg, amongst others. She's also been part of projects that have studied participatory forest management, implementation of the Forest Rights Act, and drafting medicinal plant policy for the state of Uttarakhand. Finally, apart from all her passion for nature and environment, Isha Mam loves music and loves to travel. So welcome, ma'am. We are glad to have you as a speaker today, and over to you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Very, very good morning to Reverend Father De Souza. Good morning, Madam Prabhakar, the principal. A big thank you to Tejaswini, who has connected with me. I do remember her as an intern, and she was probably the brighter one of the lot. So I do remember. It is so great to be here, and I must say that I'm really spellbound by the introduction that just happened, the reading of the 3 holy scriptures and the environment relevant portions. It has really awakened me and given the morning the best possible start that could be. And I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm so happy to be here. It's so great to be among students, because it was not very long ago that I was a student myself, and how I looked at the field of environmental law. So today, how I want to have this conversation is in the manner of just a very casual and informal talk, but to tell you as to should I share the screen, guys, or would you be sharing the screen?
Whatever you prefer, ma'am, if it is easier for your flow.
I'll just share the screen.
Yeah.
Hold on. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Okay, I hope this is visible to all. Okay, so we're talking about a topic that is very, very close to my heart, which is environment and climate litigation in India, the challenges in future. I think this is a very, very relevant topic to discuss. And I think I couldn't agree with Father De Souza more when he said that Environmental Day is restricted to, breathing the campus, or having, when we were back in school, we used to have painting competitions where we used to draw pictures of nature. Unfortunately, till date, it only remains to that. So that is the biggest challenge the environment as in whole, on the whole faces today. That environment protection, environment conservation, environment, anything about environment is related to that one day, that is World Environment Day, which needs to be corrected. There is nothing wrong in celebrating a World Environment Day. All that we need to do is we need to spread it across the 365 days of the year and make every day a World Environment Day. But moving on and coming back to the topic that we are gathered for, and I'm very impressed with the numbers, I must say, on a Saturday morning. Let me quickly give you an overview of the presentation. And like I said, this is not a very fancy presentation. We're going to have more of a conversation, and I would love to hear from the students as to what they think of, what their perception of environmental law is. Do they see a future in environmental law? Because that is what will ultimately determine what is the future of environmental and climate-based litigation in the country. So, to give you an overview quickly, we will talk about briefly what is environmental law. Then we will dwell on to how is the real application of environmental law different from what is taught in colleges. And since I was a student myself not very long ago, actually quite long ago, but I'd like to believe that it was nearer in the past than it really was. Then, is environment really a specialized branch of law? And what is really environment litigation? What is the role of courts? What is the nature of environment litigation in India? What are the challenges we face? And is there a future? So I'm going to dwell on this slide for a little bit, and we're going to come back to this one. But let us first, like we had the very, very apt reading of the three holy scriptures, let us read the holy scripture of the law, which is the Constitution of India, and it is only the most appropriate, kind of progression when we talk about what our religion has to say about environment. And let us now see what the Constitution has to say about the environment. We can proudly boast that India was the first country to insert an amendment into its constitution allowing the state to protect and improve the environment. Article 48A and 51G are the most used articles when it comes to environment conservation in India, not only at the school and the college levels, more so at the college level, but also when we practice, which is both a good and a bad thing. And we'll come to how it is, a negative. Because to give you a slight hint, because 48A and 51G is basically imposing duties on the state. What happens to us? What is our role? That gets neglected. So what the need is to look at it in a bigger perspective, and that we will talk about later. Then everybody, as law students, I'm sure you guys have read what is the 42nd Amendment in 1976, the mini constitution, and how the socialistic approach was interwoven into our constitution, which included the environment as well. There were a few subjects that were in the state lists before the 1976 amendment, and that they were transferred to the concurrent list, so that conservation and its ends are received, and there is the agreement of both the center and the state when you talk about a specific area such as the wildlife conservation. I hope, please let me know if anywhere in the slide, during the presentation you have a question, but I'm sure these are fairly easy concepts that we've talked about till now, but if you have anything, please feel free to ask me. Then we know about the directive principles of state policy, and as Article 253 allows the Parliament to make laws for the entire territory of India, including the environment. Now coming back into what is environmental law. In college, what got me interested to environmental law was my professor actually. He was the one who made environmental law into more than it was. And that's yeah. I'm sorry, is there something that was anybody asking me something?
No, ma'am. I think somebody got just unmuted.
Okay, great. Okay, carry on. Okay, now what is environmental law? This is the question that we must first answer before going into environmental related litigation. Unfortunately, what we are taught in colleges and what I was taught in college in environmental law did give me a window into the huge world of environmental law that exists. But I think what we need right now is to revise our curriculum to make environmental law into what it really is. So I'm sure, if I can tell you what I read in environmental law in my college, I read I read very, very briefly the Wildlife Protection Act, very briefly the Environment Protection Act, and I had a very, very brief overview of the Indian Forest Act. But let me tell you, what environmental law is much huger, and I'm sure that it is not in the college curriculums. I mean, it's not fair to blame the college curriculum entirely, but I feel like there needs to be a wider importance given to environmental law, because let me tell you very honestly as well, when I was in college, I didn't think environmental law was one of the tougher subjects, because there were the bigger IPCs and the CRPCs, which needed more time and attention. So basically what happens is that environmental law tends to get neglected, and that is what leads to the lesser number of people who are interested in this field. So let me give you a wider window into the world of environmental law. So what is environmental law? Environmental law is anything that helps the environment, keeping in mind the rule of the law. Nobody is saying that we don't need electricity. We need electricity. We need transportation. We need good system of infrastructure. We need good, we need good pharmaceutical setups. We need all these are basic necessities, and all these cause some damage to the environment. But where environmental law steps in is to ensure that the damage caused to the environment is the least. So that is environmental law. It is not a one-sided law, which is the misconception that people have, that if I'm an environmental lawyer, then I should be against development. That is the first doubt that needs to be removed from everybody's mind, that environmental law is not anti-development. It is a law to actually create harmony between the environment and the nature, and ensure that the principle of sustainable development, which I'm sure all of you are aware of, that we use resources in such a way that not only do we use them, but also our future generations get to enjoy some of the resources. Sustainable development, I must say, has also been the cause of debate in the Supreme Court, wherein the Supreme Court has said that sustainable development is very anthropocentric. And by anthropocentric, I mean that it is very human-oriented. So we are using resources in such a way that humans today can use it, and also humans in the future can use it. But again, that is a subject matter for another debate altogether. So this is environmental law. Environmental law creates harmony between environment and the development, and not the other way around. It does not stall development. So that is the first principle that we need to understand about environmental law. How is the real application of environmental law different? Let me talk about a legislation called the Water Act, which is the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, which is supposed to be the first environmental legislation that India had in 1974. The Water Act is probably the most used act in environmental legislation in India, because it has what is called the consent mechanism. All the industries that produce any kind of pollution, whether it be land, air, or water, are required to obtain a consent under the Water Act. And it is this consent that is either not obtained, or the conditions are violated, or it is not renewed, that leads to a lot of environmental related litigation, because if the conditions of the consent are not being met, then obviously there is bound to be pollution. If there is pollution, then that is the cause of the litigation. But the curriculum of today does not include the details of how the Water Act can be used and what is the consent mechanism. This is just one example. Let me also talk about the Wildlife Protection Act. The Wildlife Protection Act has, the first question I was asked when I was interviewing for my job was, what is the difference between national parks and sanctuaries? And I had no idea, because I had read environmental laws in college, but I had no idea what is the difference between a national park and a sanctuary. Again, I'm not blaming the curriculum. I'm just voicing the problem that I faced as an environmental law aspirant and as a student who showed some inkling towards environmental law, but I did not get the support from my books. So probably if we could go back to the authorities, to the people responsible for drawing up the curriculum, and have practical experiences from people who are actually working in this field to make environmental law more interesting than just a subject that is about 48A and 51G of the Constitution. Is it a specialized branch of law, really? See, till the moment I took up environmental law, I thought it was a specialized branch of law. But there could not be a more generic branch of law than environment than there is. It is a civil and it is an amalgamation of both civil and criminal laws, because you have to protect the resources, and if you don't protect the resources, you have punishments for that. So it is not a specialized branch of law. It is an amalgamation of your IPCs, because wildlife offences, for example, will attract criminal prosecution. You have to care for nature as it is a living being. I'm sure you guys have come across the judgments of the Uttarakhand High Court, where they said that the Ganga was a living entity. When you say that a river is a living entity, then it has all the rights that any living entity today, like you and me, are entitled to. So if it is a living entity, then it has its rights, which means that it has the right to not get polluted. Is it a specialized branch of law then? I mean, it is special for sure, but it is not separate from what civil and criminal law entail. And if we remove that mindset, I think that will attract a lot of people into this field of law. Coming to the elephant in the room as to what is environmental litigation. So there are three, in my experience till now. Guys, I'm already only talking about what my experience has been and what I have seen in the past 9 years of my involvement in this beautiful, everyday, very dynamic, everyday different, every day a different issue, every day a different solution field that is never a dull day. So what is environmental litigation? It is either adversarial or non-adversarial. Now, when I say it is adversarial, what do I mean? When you are fighting for the environment, you are not fighting for yourself. You're fighting for everybody. So that makes any environmental litigation non-adversarial. That means it is not against anybody, but for the environment. I think this is a concept that I understood only when I started practicing environmental law, that this is probably what differentiates it from other branches of law, that is, it is non-adversarial in its core, because if you're fighting to save a river, then you're not fighting just to save the river for yourself. You're fighting to save the river because of its importance, because of its ecological value, and for posterity. That makes environmental litigation at its core non-adversarial. But having said that, it is not that easy. It is also adversarial for the company or the institution or the organization that you're fighting against. So if you're fighting against hydropower, then you're fighting for the river, but you're fighting against a developer or a user agency that is developing. So it is adversarial in that sense, but at its core, it is non-adversarial. So which actually distinguishes it from other branches of law. It is preventive because sometimes environmental. Let me give you an example. We were fighting. This is a decided matter. The NGT has given a judgment in this matter, so I think I can talk about this matter. We were fighting against the establishment of a garbage disposal unit in the reserve forests in Assam. So that there was a proposal to set up a municipal waste disposal in the reserve forest, in probably what is the only remaining wild elephant habitat in the northeastern part today that is documented, that finds a mention in the law. So that was preventive. See, it was again non-adversarial, because we are not against the establishment of a garbage dump. We are not against the establishment of a municipal solid waste disposal plant. What we were against is did not want it to be in the elephant reserve. That's all. So that it was not for the petitioner. It was not an individual cause. It was a cause for the entire elephant population and the entire habitat and the entire ecosystem that would have kind of been destroyed had that the municipal waste disposal plant been built there. Again, municipal waste disposal plant is a great initiative, and it is something that we need today given the condition of our cities. But was it the best decision to make it in the reserve forest or in an area where elephants live, probably one of the last remaining habitats? No. So that is what one was against. I hope the distinction between what one is fighting for and what the litigation for is clear. But I'm sure there will be different points of view which I really want to listen to as well. It is punitive as well. I mean, so the legislation such as the Water Act, the Wildlife Protection Act, they also have penal provisions that if you're in, for example, if you're in possession or if you have hunted a scheduled one animal such as the tiger, the lion, the elephant, then there are punishments prescribed in the law as well. So till now, what we have established is that environment is not a it is not a specialized branch of law, but it has its distinctive features. It is non-adversarial at its core, but sometimes it does become adversarial when issue is between one particular company or one particular individual. Coming to a very important aspect of environmental litigation in India and where the buck stops basically, which is the role of the environmental courts. So I'm sure all of you are aware of the National Green Tribunal. Everybody is aware of the Supreme Court. But before the NGT, there was this appellate authority called the National Environment Appellate Authority of 1995. Now, as the name suggests, was just an appellate authority. And I'm sure you guys know what is now the distinction between original and appellate jurisdiction, that only an appeal could go to this authority, It did not have an original or a suo motu power. So if I'm aggrieved by, let's say, as people living in urban areas, we are aggrieved by what are the kind of problems that we face. We face noise pollution, we face air pollution, we face tree cutting. I could not go to the NEAA for these problems because it is an appellate authority. To undo this problem of only being an appellate forum, the National Green Tribunal was established. This is a statutory organized institution that was established by the National Green Tribunal Act of 2010. Now, what is the distinguishing feature of National Green Tribunal? The NGT has both original and appellate jurisdiction, wherein under Section 14 of the Act, you can approach for questions relating to environment. If you have a substantial question relating to environment, and that could be anything, you just have to establish that it happened the limitation period has been set to 6 months. That is the only problem. That is what you have to establish. So you can go to the NGT as an individual for against tree felling, against air pollution, and we're going to talk about some landmark judgments of the NGT that have been initiated by individuals and that led to the improvement of the environment in the city areas, especially the Delhi NCR area. We're going to talk about some landmark judgments where the NGT also took suo motu cognizance, even though in law it does not have the suo motu power, and it took environmental litigation to another level. Even though the cause was very important, there was no power in law. Then the Green Bench of the Supreme Court. So till about 2014, the Supreme Court used to have a Green Bench. I'm sure everybody is aware of the Godavarman case, which is the landmark case that started in 1995 against the illegal felling of trees in the Nilgiris. And it is a mammoth case that has gone on till date. There are about 5,000 IAs in the Supreme Court in Godavarman. And I don't think this is a case that will ever see the end of the day with the judgment in Godavarman 2029 of 1995, because it is so dynamic that way, because now the Forest Conservation Act has come into play. I hope I'm making sense with all this, because I'm saying these terms very freely because I know you guys are law students and you're initiated into these concepts. But if you need any further clarifications, please do ask me at the end of this. I'm just using jargons and I'm assuming that you guys are aware, but if you're not, I'm very, very happy to explain. Yeah, so what is the role of environmental courts? Let me talk a little more about the NGT. Now, the NGT has the principal bench at Delhi, and it has 5 regional benches. So one bench will be at Pune, one bench is at Chennai. So the Pune bench looks at the entire western zone. The Chennai bench looks at the entire southern zone. The Bhopal bench looks at the central zone, and the Kolkata bench looks at the eastern part of India. Some may say that it is insufficient because, let's say, a Kolkata bench at the eastern bench at Kolkata is not well equipped to handle the issues of the entire northeast, or a Chennai bench in South India is not equipped to handle the issues of the entire southern part of the country. Anyway, those are the critiques, but well, the advantages far outweigh the negatives, so we're happy with that. The NGT is fairly simple as far as approachability is concerned. Anybody could approach the NGT. Now they have something called the letter petitions, wherein any individual who is aggrieved with what is happening around him can just write a letter to the NGT, and the chairperson himself takes cognizance of the problem that has been shared with him. Aggrieved person is another thing that is very, very important for you as an environmental law aspirant to understand, that I can be aggrieved with something that is happening in Assam. I don't have to be in physical proximity of the problem to be an aggrieved person, or it doesn't have to affect me directly. So that is a huge, huge aspect of environmental litigation in India that has been heralded by the oncoming of the NGT Act, that anybody can be an aggrieved person. I can be aggrieved of what is happening to the forests in Masanagudi sitting in Delhi, because environment is for everybody, which is the core principle of the environment, that I'm not doing it for myself, I'm doing it for that forest. And if the cause is good enough, which is backed by law, then my physical presence at that place, or my being physically affected by it, is of really no consequence. So that is a very, very important principle, and a very important jurisprudence as has been laid down by the National Green Tribunal Act. The National Green Tribunal, the judgments or orders from the NGT are directly appealable to the Supreme Court. So to say off the record that it is almost like a high court, even though it does not have the wider jurisdiction under 226, but since the appeal does not go to the High Court, it is directly appealable to the Supreme Court. It gives us that much more teeth to strengthen environmental litigation in India, because that is the amount of credibility, that is the amount of power that has been given to this institution. And of course, the Supreme Court are upholder of the Constitution, the last resort for all cases, including environment, is there to oversee. Whether that does it or not is not something that I'm going to comment on, and it is all for all you bright minds to kind of assess that what do you think of the Supreme Court vis-a-vis environment. There have been so many landmark judgments, and I'm sure as environmental law students, you guys have overused and abused the NC Mehta matters in your environmental law matters, because I did too. But one cannot take away from what these judgments have laid down for environmental law jurisprudence in India. Cleaning of rivers, cleaning of the Taj Mahal, cleaning of drains. I mean, you say it, everyday problems that you're facing. And Supreme Court has been very, very active. Air pollution, for example. Let me tell you about a problem that we face in Delhi about stubble burning. It is impossible to breathe during, around the time of Diwali, when the farmers are cutting their grains and they're burning the stubble, basically the dried stubble. All the air from Punjab comes into Delhi, and it becomes so. We had started wearing masks even before COVID hit, So for the past 3 years, we've been wearing masks in Delhi because of this. It was not worth stepping out. It was that bad, the condition of the air, because the stubble that was in the air, because the air was thick. You could see it hanging literally. There was so much like pollution in the air. It was hanging. The Supreme Court rightly intervened. It rightly intervened in stopping the bursting of crackers. It rightly intervened in so many causes, and I don't think I can, in the floodplains, that no construction should happen in floodplains. I mean, the issues are so many, and the Supreme Court has been fairly proactive, I must say that. I don't know if you guys are aware about the airport at Goa, which was sent back for reappraisal by the Supreme Court after the NGT's green flag. The Vedanta case, wherein the Vedanta industry at Tuticorin was also closed down by the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court has been fairly vigilant, and I must say full credit to the Supreme Court, except it is also like any other organization open to critique, and it is for you and your understanding and how you perceive the situation. I'll leave it to that. I won't pass any opinions on that. We've talked about what is the nature of environmental litigation in India. Okay, let's talk about what is the trend that we are facing. So my experience, my view of environmental litigation is the NGT, because that is where the action that is the dedicated environmental court for India. Also, where all the action takes place. So, what is the kind of cases that we are seeing right now? We see everything from I don't want this tree to be felled in my area, to saving an elephant corridor, to establishment of sustainable 24/7 peaking projects, 24/7 hydropower projects, which is the better model to hydropower projects, which is the peaking model. Again, very technical terms. Ask me if you're interested. I'll be happy to tell you. Then what is the kind? Air pollution is a big case. River pollution is a big case that the NGT is into. Then there are the regular cases of consents being violated, consents not being taken, consents which have expired and industries are running without it. So somebody who's facing a problem because of that, they go to court. Some of the few interesting cases that we have come across is there was this school there was a school and there was a residential colony next to it. So whenever the school bell used to ring, they used to ring it so loudly that the residential colony also used to hear it. So they came to the NGT that this is noise pollution. And fair enough, the NGT was like, we can't say that it is not noise pollution, but we also can't take away the right of the student to kind of hear the bell. So you have to kind of live with it. So this was just on the lighter side. What are the challenges that environment litigation faces? We'll come to that, and is there a future? Let's go on. We talked about the constitution. Challenges to environmental litigation in India. Now, this is so personal to me, and this is something that I really want to talk about and connect with you guys on this level, and I would love to hear from you. This is just indicative, guys, the points on these slides, because for me, the biggest challenge is the lack of practitioners. There are just not enough people who understand environmental law, and that is the biggest travesty of environmental law litigation in India. That everybody thinks that environmental law is so easy, and anybody can do it, which is so not the case. It is so technical. Trust me, the question that was asked to me on the first day of my job as to what is the difference between national park and sanctuary, it took me a good 7 years to understand that difference. When I saw a national park, when I saw a sanctuary, and then related it to the law, is when I understood the difference between a national park and a sanctuary. And a lot of litigations in forests are related to the rights in these national parks and sanctuaries. So until and unless I understand what is a national park and sanctuary, I will approach it like a regular practitioner, which is the problem, which is the biggest pain of environmental litigation today, that everybody thinks that it is so easy, but it is so technical and it is so dynamic that you really have to get into the depth of that law to understand what every word is saying. Lack of practitioners, according to me, would be the biggest challenge that environmental litigation faces. Then we talked about the lesser importance to environmental law at the college level, and I'm not going to belabor this point too much because, and it's great that I'm not passing a blanket statement. It was in my college, so let me say that my college was very inept, and it took that one professor who took it to another level to kind of really spark the excitement of environmental laws for me. Let me tell you guys one more thing about environmental law. It is very passion driven. You have to be really passionate about this cause to kind of really appreciate what is happening, because not everybody cares if the elephant habitat is being destroyed. I'm not saying that they're insensitive to it. I'm just saying that the level of sensitivity that is required for environmental law is slightly higher than other fields of law, and I'm sure my friends in other fields of the law would disagree. But well, hey, I'm here to speak about environmental law. I'm going to sell it to the best of my abilities. Yeah, so it'll be, and it's great if environmental laws are dealt with equal seriousness as other laws are at your college, and it's great, and I'm very happy if it's not the case at your college. But I'm sure, but I think I can say safely for a majority of the colleges in the country that environmental law is like the English of the school level. That everybody thought that English is not the most important. Anyway, I hope that is not the case, and I hope that changes for the better soon. Who is an environmental lawyer? Which is also very, very central to the cause of challenges of environmental litigation in India. Now, when I say that I'm an environmental lawyer, everybody thinks that I should not travel in a car, I should not live in an air-conditioned house, I should not have free supply of electricity, and I should not enjoy the benefits of development, which is so unfair to an entire discipline of law, because that is not what environmental law is. Like we talked about, environmental law is upholding the rule of law. If you are doing an activity that is conforming to the law that has been laid down, I don't see that as any problem. That is the most environment friendly thing that you can do. We say that let's take for example a distillery. A distillery is supposed to be a very polluting industry. Okay, it has air pollution, it has water pollution, it has ground level pollution. But can we do without industrial alcohol at all? Will we medicinal purposes, cosmetic purposes, construction related purposes, can we do without industrial alcohol at any of our basic necessities? No. So can we say that do away with distilleries? No, we can't. We need it. What do we need to do? We need to ensure that the distillery is running within the confines of the law. And that is an environmental lawyer who knows what the law is that has to be followed. So we have this concept in our office, and it's not a concept that is made by our firm, but which is something that we really strive to apply, which is Enviro legal due diligence. I am sure you guys must have interned at corporate law offices wherein you have done due diligence for companies. We are applying the same principles to environmental law. So it's called Enviro legal due diligence. What is Enviro legal due diligence? Okay, if you are, say, for example, a distillery, what are the environmental rules that you need to comply with? That is all. You make a checklist and you ensure that they are being complied. You are an environmentally compliant industry. And who am I? If I'm helping that, then I'm an environmental lawyer, because I'm ensuring that the rule of law vis-a-vis the environment has been upheld. So I did not have this point of view of environment when I started environmental law, because I thought environmental law was only activist based. It was only to shut down. It was only to close. It was only to stop. It is not that. This is an understanding that I got when I started practicing law, that it only means upholding the rule of the law, which is true for any other sphere of law, and more so for environmental law, because everybody benefits from that. There is one of the bigger challenges of environmental litigation in India is also the lack of awareness of basic issues and their redressal mechanisms. So every day, let me talk about Delhi. I'm sorry if this is very Delhi-centric, because my experiences are coming, but I'm sure it's true for any urban city where there is dump mounds of waste that are thrown on the road. There are cows eating on the garbage. We all see it. And all of us can do something about it. There are civic authorities that can be approached. It needn't be in litigation only. It can also be a redressal that can happen to the problem if we know the authorities that have to be approached. I see that the waste from my colony is thrown outside my colony, and what happens? The stray cattle, the stray dogs, they all thrive on that. I can do something about it, but have I done something about it? No. So the awareness of the basic issues of pollution, of contamination are known to all of us. We need to know the redressal mechanism that is not out there in the public, basically. So to know our civic authorities will solve a big chunk of our environmental problems that we face in urban areas. We have talked about how environmental litigation has always been conceived as anti-development, which is not the case. It is just conformity to rule of law. Whenever I speak to somebody that I'm an environmental lawyer, like, oh, okay, so you're the guys who shut down that plant, or you are the guys who stopped that activity. But one has to understand that that activity was only stopped, or that plant was only shut down because it was not conforming to the environmental laws that were stipulated for such a unit. So environment is not anti-development. Environment is probably the best way towards development, so that you ensure that not only you are benefiting from what nature has to offer, but your future generations also have a shot at it. But the way we are going right now, I really doubt it. But that is just me. I mean, you are free to have your own opinion. A very interesting fact that I've seen is the role of activists and the stereotyping that comes along with it. Whenever you say to people that you're an environmental lawyer, you are perceived to be an activist. That is what I learned when I became an environmental lawyer. That I am not an activist. I am not there to agitate cause. I am there to uphold the rule of law. And as budding environmental litigators, you guys must understand that as much as you associate with a cause, if it is the law, then it is the law. If the law allows for an industry to kind of function within the bounds, then as an environmental lawyer, it is your duty to fight for the right of that industry to function within the framework of the law. By no means am I negating the role of activists, and it has proven to be a landmark event for the conservation of environment as far as role of activists are concerned. Let me go back, like the Chipko movement, the Yamuna Bachao Andolan, the Narmada Bachao Andolan. These movements have been groundbreaking for environmental conservation in India. I'm not taking away from the role of activists, but as environmental litigators, you have to draw a difference. You have to draw a line between what you are. You are an upholder of the environmental law. You can be supported by the environment activist, but you should not become the activist yourself. The moment you become the activist, an environmental activist, then the environmental laws get blurred, and which defeats the purpose of the entire framework that environmental law has in India. A real problem, this is very what you and I can do, what is the fraternity like, how is environmental law perceived. But probably if I can blur all the other issues out and talk to you about non-compliance in India is cheaper than compliance. So if I am a non-compliant unit, I can get away with paying a fine. I can get away with a temporary closure. Let me explain this to you by way of an example. So we have a sanctuary called the Binsar Wildlife Sanctuary in Uttarakhand. Very beautiful sanctuary, away in the lap of nature, everything. Ecotourism is a concept that we have propounded through our laws, that eco-based tourism also in fact increases awareness. It makes people aware of what there is and what is the bigger need to conserve it. So accordingly, in tune with the principles of ecotourism, a ecotourism facility, a ecotourism unit was established in the Binsar Wildlife Sanctuary. The unit took about 7 years time to get its compliances, get its its approvals in order, and then it was slapped with a PIL to kind of that you can't be here. So even conformity has not led to anything good. So had it been non-compliant, I would just paid some fine and gotten away with it. But the pains that an industry or an undertaking takes to ensure compliance is more often dulled by what is the cost to non-compliance. I mean, I'm sure you see this when you start practicing environmental law, that an industry will rather just get away with paying a fine than kind of pay a fine, kind of comply with the law, and then again kind of tolerate the wrath of the courts, which leads us to the role of the courts. Very important, very pivotal to any litigation, and environment is no exception. But having said that, I would like to add like a caveat that it is important for the judges to be equally sensitive to the cause of environmental litigation and understand environmental laws before deciding on environmental law issues. So, if I may say, and this is my opinion only, that the bench needs to be equally sensitive to the cause of the environment, and which means that they also need to be equally aware of the environmental laws. And I'm sure the NGT, the Supreme Court, are all doing a stellar job with that, and I think we have them to look up to for environmental litigation in India. Moving on, is there a future? Big fat yes. There is a future for environmental litigation in India. After having delved on all those 100 problems that I saw actually for environmental litigation, let us see what is the future of environment and climate-based litigation in India. It is basically the need of the hour. If not now, then when? If we are not excited, if we are not interested in saving the environment or initiating climate-based litigation, and especially you as students of law, you as future lawyers, you as future environmental lawyers, if not now, then when? I mean, it is very easy to sit in one corner and kind of talk about what should happen, how we are all losing the plot, how the forests are degrading, how the air quality has worsened, how the water quality has gone further down the drain. Very easy as people to talk about that, but you guys are the change makers. You have it in you to kind of get into this field, get excited by the problems, and get excited as change makers, as people who have solutions. We have such a rich history of environmental based legislation in the country. Litigation in the country. We have landmark cases that we can build on. There have been judgments for river pollution. We can with the tools to ensure that those judgments are kind of implemented till date in letter and spirit. I see a very, very positive energy in the younger generation, wherein I would like to be a part. I like to make myself a part of you and say that we are very, very motivated, and we want to bring about a change. I mean, social media is our biggest platform. I mean, to talk about one of the movements, the recent movement, the Molam Goa. I'm sure everybody is aware of that. The felling of trees in the Bhagwan Mahavir Wildlife Sanctuary. I'm sure it was such a huge media-based program that happened, that everybody was at least aware of these problems. When 1,000 people become aware, 100 people become interested, 10 people decide to take some action, and one person actually takes it. So the knowledge dissemination is also very important, and social media is a great platform for that. Sustainable development is the cool word for this generation. Let us hope we can implement it in true letter and spirit, and ensure that what was passed on to us, which was also precious little, is ensured we can add on to what was passed on to us, and ensure that what our future generation gets is much more than what we got. And I believe that everybody is a change maker, and as the 100 odd people that I see here who have at least turned up for this talk, I mean, I see that the future is very bright, and I'm sure at least 50 of you will kind of Google some words that you heard today. Some of you will get back to me, and you have a great administration that is so interested in environmental laws, and they are so approachable. I'm sure they will instill in you the excitement that environmental law has. And let me tell you, 9 years and there has never been a dull day at work. Every day is a new problem. If one day you're saving elephant corridors, one day you're saving an industry that has been on the receiving end of a propaganda. One day you're talking about tigers, one day you're talking about rivers. I don't think it gets more exciting than that, at least for me. So environmental law is the new uh, uh, cool thing to be, and environmental lawyers are the ways of the future. Um, these are just some indicative judgments of the NGT on climate change and climate-based litigations. Uh, so climate change is still a very new concept that the judiciary is dealing. It's not very popular right now, because till very recent, people did not accept that climate change was real. Only when acceptance has come now that action has started a little bit. So I can talk. You can look at these cases. I mean, I'll share this slide with Jasmini, and everybody can have the benefit of these slides. So we can talk about the issues of Paris Agreement, such a technical conference, such a technical kind of set of directives. All for, and are we capable to decipher Paris Agreement? Are the courts capable to decipher Paris Agreement? But they tried, which is what is important. You have to start somewhere. So I think this is a this is a step in the right direction, basically. State action on climate change, Vardhaman Kaushik. So in Delhi, we can't use petrol vehicles which are more than 10 years old. Diesel vehicles which are more than 10 years old, and petrol vehicles which are more than 15 years old. That was brought about by Mr. Vardhaman Kaushik, a lawyer who felt that he could not breathe. So that brought about the fact that cars are a very major source of pollution. It is one of the very popular air pollution case in India, in Delhi at least. The Ganga pollution case, then limitations of NGT is very technical. Again, our conversation has been very practical. We have talked about the real problem that exists, the real situation that there is on the ground, and the real changes that can be brought about. In my opinion, you have to be initiated towards it. The moment you're initiated towards it, this field will consume you. Either it will consume you or you will opt out. I mean, it will consume you so bad that it will be like an intoxicant that you can't get rid of, and it will get better by the day, because you will start understanding concepts more and more with every day. And it is just something that I think it is a tree that never stops giving, basically. So for all these technical issues, I will share my slide, and you are free to ask me any questions, which will be about now. So I think I'm done with whatever I had to say. If there is any specific question that is needed to be asked, I'm open to that.
Thank you, ma'am, for enriching our knowledge. And
how do I stop this? 1 second. I'll just stop my lecture.
No problem, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am, for enriching our knowledge and deliberating upon several enactments, statutory bodies, and rights, and especially your personal experiences related to environmental law. Environmental and climate crisis is indeed an alarming issue in the current era, and thank you, ma'am, for instilling a sense of obligation towards the environmental crisis that we are facing today. Now, let's move on towards the Q&A session. So we are facing some technical issues with the chat box. So I request all the attendees to kindly use the raise hand option, and the floor is open for questions.
Sure. So
we have one question from Joanne. It says, ma'am, could you please throw some light on where to start as a graduate in this field?
Okay, great question. Where to start as a graduate? You can start with...
Sorry, this Joanne, I raised my hand. I couldn't get the full question on the chat box.
Okay.
So I actually have two questions. So one is the fact that, where to start if you want to actually do litigation in this field, because, they say there's no much scope. So what is there? I mean, I know you focused on there is a future, but what is there a future for people who actually come here in terms of monetary benefits? Do people actually grow in that field? One is that. Second is, if I do not want to be an environmental litigation, I mean, want to continue in that field, but I'm so passionate about it and I restrict myself only to activism. Do you feel that at one point as an activist, you are stumbled by this block of the fact that you can't do more because, there's only so much you can do as an activist, right? If you're actually in the legal field, then you can go one step ahead and get some laws to be passed or an injunction to be brought forth. So I just want some clarity on these two, ma'am.
Right. Joanne, could you please repeat your first question? I think there was some problem in my audio. Just the first question. I got the second question. The first question, just the gist of it.
Ma'am, the first question would be, where can I start if I'm interested in this field? Like, what is will I have a good career growth just like every other field of law that is there?
Yeah. Okay. Great question, Joanne. And I think the most pertinent question that most of you would have with regard to environmental law, and so did I. Honestly, I also had this question that will I make money if I join an environmental law firm, or if I do environmental laws? See, litigation in India is not very remunerative when you start off. Okay, it has its struggles like any other field of law, but more so because of the way environmental litigation and being an environmental lawyer is being perceived as. We at our firm are pure environmental lawyers. We only do environmental law. But for that, we also needed to be initiated into that environmental law. So for first 3 years, we only studied the law. We only kind of went into the depths of the law. So where to start? I mean, you can come and intern with us is what I can say. But I'm sure there are so many environmental law organizations that you can join. You can join the National Green Tribunal as a clerk. You can intern at the National Green Tribunal. There are so many benches. You guys are at Bangalore, so I think the closest bench for you would be Chennai. Intern at the Chennai bench, intern with the judges, see how they think about, see how the forum works. That will be a good starting point. I think that is one part of your question. Second part of your question is it remunerative? I mean, it gets better. It gets better as you kind of climb the ladder, as you become more experienced in the field, as people see what is your worth and how you're different from other civil practitioners or other practitioners that are not initiated into environmental law. So it does get better. Starting like any field of law. Like I have had friends who have interned in chambers starting with 5,000 rupees, 8,000 rupees. But that is not the point. The point is if you're passionate towards it, money will come. Money will come, and you'll not. Your basic needs will be met, but it'll get better for sure. It'll get better. And sorry, I now forgotten the second question. What is the second question? Sorry, could you just repeat the second question, Joanne?
The second question is, in case I feel not to go into the litigation of things, but I decide, okay.
Sure. Activism, like I said, is a huge part of environmental protection, environmental conservation in India. So if you're an activist and you know the law, then you are so much better equipped. Like if you understand Indian Forest Act, if you understand Forest Conservation Act, and then you agitate the cause of protecting the forests in Goa, you will yourself feel so empowered that your demands will also be much more within the frame of the law. So being an activist is not a bad thing at all. And being empowered with the knowledge of the law, and especially environmental laws, makes it a double-edged sword. So it's not necessary for only to go into environmental litigation. I'm not advocating environmental litigation. I'm just saying that it is just a very, very good way to go about it. Activism is equally good, and you guys are all law students. You are already backed with the power of law. It just gives you more teeth. I hope I've answered your question. And if not, then do let me know.
Ma'am, you've answered my question. Thank you so much. But in case I want to intern at your place, do I just apply? Like,
Yes.
oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So next we have P.K. Ramasheshan. I request you to kindly unmute and ask your question.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes. Ramasheshan.
Yeah, ma'am. Very happy morning. Ma'am, my question is when it comes to the theory of climate change, right? There is actually two ways you can go about it. The first way is that everything that scientists and the data and the statistics are showing are true. And the second way to go about it is that basically it's not true at all. My question to you is, ma'am, as you are an environmental lawyer, as a litigation, as a lawyer, what can we do to convince people that everything that the scientists and the data is showing is true on that basis? How can we place our arguments not just logically, not just factually, but also convincingly to the other side of the fence, basically? That's my question, ma'am.
I think that's a very good question. Very intelligent question, I must say. There are two sides to this question. If I, in my experience at least, climate change, like we said, is not in courts as much yet. I mean, the courts are not. They're not getting many issues with regard to many cases with regard to climate change per se. But you will see that a case of hydropower development will talk about climate change, that if this hydropower project will bring about climate change. So climate change, to answer your question, it is not a very popular topic of litigation as yet in India, which is unfortunate given the fact that it is so real. I mean, but having said that, people are still coming to terms with the fact that climate change is real. Only when you feel the effects of climate change will you know that climate change is real. So unfortunate events such as the cyclone in Orissa or the flooding in Rajasthan, these are all indicators of climate change. Until that had happened, which is so unfortunate because the cost is so huge, loss of life, loss of livelihoods, loss of place of living, everything. I mean, that is the climate change realization is very less right now. If you have to put forth, and also the jurisprudence on climate change is very little, very precious little, I must say. When you put forth an argument of climate change in India, honestly, we don't. We're not putting forth arguments of climate change in India. But probably we need a new, wave of thought for putting forth climate change as an argument. We are only restricted to Paris Agreement, and that is something also that people don't understand. I mean, it is not everybody's cup of tea. Climate change, I wish I could give you a more specific answer, but there is not much on climate change except debates, except discussions with organizations, except think tanks. Courts are really not looking at climate change right now. Yeah, I think I can say that safely.
But ma'am, we as lawyers, where can we start?
Where can you start? Okay. Now, you're aware that you can't solicit cases as a lawyer because your bar council prohibits you. But where can you start? You can start with yourself, Ramasheshan. I think you can start by being aware of what is climate change and how is climate change and environment directly dependent upon each other. You can start. So, for example, if tomorrow you are fighting the case of against a hydropower plant, or you're fighting the case of river pollution tomorrow in the National Green Tribunal, you can say that if this area floods, or if the area floods because of the hydropower project, then this is an indicator of climate change. You can talk about the cyclone that Orissa faced. You can say that was courts need to be apprised of it, and that the awareness begins with you. If I don't know what climate change is, then how will I convince the court? The court is only going to confine itself to what I submit in front of it. So to answer your question, it begins with you. you have to apprise yourself, you have to convince yourself that climate change is real, climate change is here, and if it persists, then it is the end of all of us. So that fear, that danger is not clear for everybody right now. So it starts with you, and it is on you to it is on you, it is on me, it is on everybody who's a part of this debate, and the world at large, to kind of bring it before the courts. It is educate yourself first and then bring it before the courts, because the courts are going to be restricted to what you bring before them. So yeah, that I think that's what I have to say.
Thank you very, very much, ma'am, for the time and the beautiful answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Anybody else? I see a few hands being risen. Prakriti, are there more people?
Ma'am, George can ask his question.
Yeah,
I think Prakriti is just facing some technical issues. George, very quickly, George and Neeraj, but
yes,
keep it short. And Isha Ma'am, if you could also just keep it a little short, let's get more opportunity for that.
Yeah. All right, ma'am. Okay, good morning, ma'am. My name is George, and I'm in my second year of the LLB. Ma'am, while you were speaking, ma'am, you mentioned something very important, ma'am, and you spoke about compliance, ma'am. I have just one very simple question to ask, ma'am. With respect to ma'am, is there any mechanism put in place that ensures, uniformity in data collection with respect to compliance or non-compliance of projects in this country, ma'am, with environmental projects? That's my question, ma'am. What are the indicators? What are the indicators they apply or use to evaluate a project?
The regulator is the pollution control boards with regard to collecting data. So if you go to the site of the State Pollution Control Board or the Central Pollution Control Board, you will have your data there. And what was the second part of your question again?
No, ma'am. So, I mean, my entire thing was that just in case there is a uniform mechanism to collect this data of compliance of a project, what are the indicators they use, ma'am, in order to ensure show that this compliance is happening or not? What are the particular subheadings do they mark a particular state on?
Right. So the data is industry specific, George. There is no one uniform data for. There are different categories of industries. So all parameters for all industries are different. So a chemical industry will have a different parameter. A pharmaceutical industry will have a different parameter. All this information you can write to me and I can give you a more detailed answer. But yes, so to answer your question quickly is that the pollution control boards and industry specific parameters, which is very easily available. But if you want a more detailed answer, you can write to me and I'll guide you to a very credible source where you can look at this data.
All right, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we will have two more questions. So I request SB Neeraj to ask his question.
Yes. Hi, ma'am. Good morning. So I'm in my second year law degree. So we recently had this public administration class, and we were seeing this talk given by the Bhutan Prime Minister, and he's talking about how their country is sustainably tackling the climate change, and they talked about how they have this. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. There's some work going on. I'm so sorry about that. So they were talking about how they have this separate provision reserved in their constitution that reserves 70% of their land as forest land. Do you think something like that is required in the oncoming few days to be imposed in the constitution? Because given the current climate situation, do you think such imposition is required to ensure sustainable future?
Why not? I mean, why not? I could not have answered in the negative to this question, but is that easy? Not at all. I mean, there are so many factors involved. We are also so big as a country. The sheer size makes it so difficult to bring consensus on such an important issue. But I'll be so happy, and it will be so great for the environment if that happens. There could not have been a negative answer to that. So I would encourage you to start the movement for that, and write a petition on change.org. just to start a debate. Why not?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
I think this is the last question then, Prakriti.
Yes, ma'am, we will have the last question from Sumedh. I request Sumedh to kindly unmute and ask his question. Sumedh?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, ma'am. Ma'am, so earlier you told that with respect to environmental laws, we adopt an anthropocentric approach as such. My question is, would we see better results if we, adopted something like an ecocentric approach?
Wow, you guys, such great questions. This is such a good question. Yes and no. See, the concept of sustainable development till date has not been realized in its entirety. Okay, so even sustainable development is a good mix of anthropocentric and ecocentric principles, but we haven't been able to achieve sustainable development till date because we are working in extremes right now. We are either completely destroying or only developing. We are not striving the balance that environmental law strive. That the development in conformity with the law. So to move to a completely ecocentric principle, we can't afford to right now, to be very honest, because it's just not. It will not be good for the economic growth of the country. Whereas sustainable development ensures that. Except we are not doing sustainable development. We are doing very 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 it is completely anthropocentric right now, and I think any approach, only the extreme of any approach is bad. So only ecocentric will mean we giving up everything, even the access to this internet and sitting in our houses where we are sitting right now. That will also not be possible. So completely ecocentric or completely anthropocentric is bad, and we are facing the consequences of completely anthropocentric right now. The answer to that is sustainable development, and what we should do to achieve that is basically the answer.
Oh, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am, for your time and patience. Actually, we have a few more questions, but we are already crossed the limit.
Yeah.
So I request all those who want to ask the questions, they can just mail it to us, and we can forward it to you, ma'am.
Yeah, and have to answer.
Yes. So moving on, we would like to begin with the announcement of results, which so on the occasion of World Environment Day, the Environmental Law and Climate Justice Committee had organized an inter-college event called Ecotopia with the sole objective of joining our hands in discouraging dystopia and sharing our visions of ecologically ideal future through various forms of expression. And we are overwhelmed to have received such a great response in this event. So now I would like to request our principal, Dr. Pratima Prabhakar, to announce the winners of the event.
Thank you so much. First and foremost, I would like to congratulate Isha for a wonderful speech on our responsibilities and duties towards environment. If it is for environment, nothing but for ourselves, towards our own selves. Thank you so much for sensitizing this issue. Now I'm extremely glad. I'm glad and excited to announce the winners of the contest Ecotopia, conducted by the Environmental and Climate Justice Committee of SJCL. The first place goes to Hansini Suresh, first BA LLBA. Hansini Suresh, first place. Second place goes to Kritika Jain, second BA LLB B section. Third place to Michael Thomas, second BA LLB A section. And consolation prizes to Deeksha S, second BA LLB A section, and George Thomas, second BA LLB A section. Hearty congratulations to the winners, and my warm congratulations and hearty appreciations to Miss Tejaswini and her team for the brilliant job done.
Thank you, ma'am. a gentle note to all the students and attendees in this event. The Google form for the attendance and certificates will be sent to official groups, and it will be open for 10 minutes. So I request you all to fill it up as early as possible. Moving on,
one thing in the end, just one sentence. I am so happy that your college has such an active environmental law cell. My college didn't have it. I am so glad to see so many competitions, and with I think Tejaswini she was so motivated as a law student, and I think that shows in her abilities as a teacher as well. Great, I'm so happy. I'll definitely, this is a takeaway from me, and I'm going to go take it to other colleges and talk about you guys.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving on, I request Nikita to propose a formal vote of thanks. Over to you, Nikita.
Thank you, Prakriti. It is indeed my privilege to be delivering the vote of thanks on this very special day. On behalf of the entire Environmental Law and Climate Justice Committee, I would firstly like to thank Isha Mam for having taken out the time from her busy schedule for this webinar. Her experiences and inputs on this niche and unconventional area of law will definitely have sparked an interest in several young minds. Thank you so much, ma'am.
My pleasure.
To our director, Father Gerald De Souza, SJ, our principal, Dr. Pratima Prabhakar, our vice principal, Pauline Priya, and the entire SJCL faculty and management, this webinar would not have been a success without you. Thank you for your constant support with all our endeavors. We would like to express our gratitude to Professor Gio Verghese and the entire social media team for their support. Today's YouTube live streaming would not have been possible without mine and Parikshit. Thank you for handling all the technicalities. We would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to all the judges of Ecotopia 2021, Ms. Rebecca Eve Daniel and Professor Thomas Alexander, for patiently judging all the submissions that we received. We would also like to thank all the participants of Ecotopia. It was truly very encouraging to see the ideal world that each participant visualized. Tejaswini ma'am, we will never be able to thank you enough. Thank you so much for being the pillar behind this committee and for the never-ending guidance and support. And last but not the least, I would like to thank each and every one of you who has been a part of this webinar. We hope to meet you again very soon. Thank you and have a great day ahead.
Thank you so much. It was so great.
Just a last word of thanks to Prakriti and Nikita. They have been working hard a lot. We just have 2 coordinators at this point. So kudos to you guys and a huge round of applause, guys. Good job.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I'll take your leave. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Isha.
Bye-bye.
With this, we have come to an end of this meeting. Thank you all.